Hello, everyone. Ian here from FanSided. Today, I'm joined by former number one ranked golfer in the world, Luke Donald, also the current Ryder Cup captain for the European team. Luke, thank you for joining me today. You are partnered with Airways. Why don't we start right there, airways.com. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about the website and how they can get connected with you?
Yeah, so I've known Michael Murphy for a while now. He's the brains behind Airways, and came up with the great idea of having a platform where you could have a little bit more in-depth kind of knowledge of the fans that you want to follow, like the celebrities and the sports people, and just having a little bit more of an inside look into what they do, what makes them tick. Um, and I think I was very interested in this. Certainly, a few years ago when COVID hit, we were all stuck at home, and I came up with the idea of doing some online videos to help people while they were stuck in their houses, like little tips to help with their game. While we were going through this really unknown period, and people really loved it. People really loved that little insight. And I think Airways is just another opportunity to create something that's even more in depth. And that's why I kind of love the idea.
Now, I took a look at your page, Luke, and I noticed that it's a lot of at least the videos and the lessons that I saw were revolved around the short game, which God knows something I need a lot of help with. So maybe I'm going to be signing up here after this interview. Talk to me about just how important the short game is, because I'm not a good golfer. I'm a double-digit handicap, and I don't think people spend enough time practicing the short game. They go to the driving range, they take their driver out. They don't spend enough time on the greens, around the greens. Talk about the short game and how important that is.
Yeah, everybody loves the long ball, obviously, but not everybody has that talent, especially amateurs. I think
Right.
not everyone would have the ability to hit a 300-yard drive, but if you break it down, I think you should have the same ability to, make a 5-foot putt or a 6-foot putt, or minimize three putting, or just take less putts per round. The short game is actually quite technical, and I think that's why I've so concentrated a lot of the videos that I have on that. That's certainly been my expertise throughout my career. It's what got me to world number one. I was the best in the world from 125 yards and in. So that's where I feel like I have my most knowledge to share, and where I've been at the top of the world in terms of that parts of the game. So yeah, I think when people think of Luke Donald the golfer, they think of great putting, great short game, great wedge play. And so, I think that it just makes sense to be kind of sharing that knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we are going to talk about that a little bit more. I do have some other questions for you, Luke, and you must have known this was going to come because the news that broke last week between the big merger, PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and the PIF that was announced last week. I don't remember a time when breaking news hit the sports world that nobody saw coming. I think it shocked everyone. I'm sure it shocked you as well. I got to get your general thoughts on this whole merger and whether or not you think this is going to be good for golf, maybe eventually down the road in the long term.
Yeah, certainly this was a surprise to everyone. I think there was only six people that were negotiating this kind of in secret. Nobody really knew that this was going to happen. It was a shock to all the players. Certainly a 180-degree turnaround from what we'd been hearing for the last couple of years. That there were two different sides, and they were going on different paths, and that this was never going to happen. But yeah, I mean, again, there's still lots of questions to be answered, and
Right.
how this will work, and the merger, and all these things. But from my standpoint, it just appears like this is a commercial merger. This isn't merging the tours into one. This is about using, a source of money to create opportunities in the game of golf. I think there are obviously, it was becoming a longish battle, legal battle between the PGA Tour and LIV. It was costing a significant amount of resources. Obviously, the PGA Tour had to, change their strategy when LIV came about, a competitor, and they had to increase money for the players, and that was, I think, was bearing down on some of their reserves, I suppose, and they looked at finally getting in the room with the Saudis and figuring out what they wanted and figuring out the best way forward for the game of golf. And we'll have to see what happens. Certainly, as Ryder Cup captain, it doesn't really change anything with me. Again, the European Tour and their structure and everything like that hasn't changed. Down the road, some stuff could change, but before the Ryder Cup, I don't see anything really changing in terms of the players that I have available to me.
So that doesn't change anything in terms of some of the golfers that might be potentially available for the European team who have been golfing on LIV, potentially making a Ryder Cup appearance. That doesn't change anything for you at all as a captain?
No, I've been consistent throughout. I've said that I'm going to consider all players, wherever they play. And that's been the consistent message throughout. But I'm obviously at the mercy of the European Tour rules and regulations. And to be eligible for me to pick them, you have to be a member of the European Tour.
Right.
Obviously, a month or two ago, a bunch of guys, because of the ruling that happened in April in favor of the European Tour, where they were able to impose those sanctions and for people playing LIV, and because of that, certain players decided to resign their membership. And once they do that, unfortunately, they're not available for me for selection. So it's quite clear. It's not grey. It's pretty black and white. And but I still have many good players from a pool of good players to pick from.
Yeah, let's talk about the upcoming Ryder Cup here. European team hasn't lost in Europe since, I believe, 1993. Obviously back in Europe this year, Marco Simone Golf and Country Club. Can you talk about that golf course a little bit? Because I know especially us golf fans over here in North America, not as familiar with this golf course. It hosted the Italian Open a couple times back in just last year in 2021. Can you talk about that golf course? And maybe, is there anything about that golf course that's going to give the European team a little bit of an advantage over the United States?
Well, being at home is always an advantage. You have the fans behind you. We all know that in sports, that having that energy and that fan atmosphere behind you is always a big advantage. But Marco Simone is a beautiful golf course just on the outskirts of Rome. People will be able to stay in the center of Rome and travel out and be a part of the Ryder Cup. There's some just beautiful views of the whole of the downtown city of Rome, from certain holes. And it was a golf course that was renovated 7-8 years ago, in mind to try and host a Ryder Cup. It got that. It's obviously a significant moment in golf for Italy to grow the game, which is what the Ryder Cup is all about. It's about showcasing, what the Ryder Cup means and trying to introduce people that wouldn't have watched golf before and get interested in it, and again growing that the popularity of golf through a great exhibition of the best in Europe versus the best in the US. So it's obviously at home. As a home captain, I get to select a little bit of how the course is set up, and you look at the statistics and the strengths that our possible guys are going to have against their strengths, and you try and make the course to your advantage. It's pretty hard to find those little edges, but there are some out there, and that's again the privilege of being a home captain.
How much strategy is involved both in kind of that and selecting the golfers with your captain's picks, in terms of, are you looking for golfers who maybe their style of play fits this style of course well? Is that something that crosses your mind when making captain's picks?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one criteria. There's lots of criteria. This year, a little bit unprecedented. We have 6 picks, similar to the US. I think that gives me a great opportunity to pick the most informed players leading up to the Ryder Cup. It gives me an opportunity to look at the guys that might fit well with that golf course and what the demands of it. But it also gives me an opportunity to look at the 6 that are already qualified and how can I pair them up to make great pair partnerships. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's getting closer and closer and getting more and more real. The Ryder Cup will be upon us pretty soon.
Is there a pairing that you already have in your mind? Listen, these two top guys are going to be teamed up no matter what, or are we still too far out for that?
Some general feelings. I wouldn't say anything set in stone yet, but certainly we're getting closer now. So those conversations are starting to ramp up between myself and some of the vice captains, and amongst some of the players that will be there.
Yeah, it is a tough job you have in terms of making those captains' picks. Could you name a golfer or two that has impressed you so far this year? Obviously, not someone named Rory McIlroy or John Rahm, but someone else who is a potential for the European team that has impressed you. Someone who maybe isn't a household name, especially over here in North America.
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, I mean, I'd obviously. There has been lots of great performances. It's hard for me to pick out names because I don't want to put anything out there. But I'll put one out there, Adrian Morong, just because he won in Italy. He won at the Ryder Cup course. He finished second, I think, 3 years before that. So having that sort of form certainly doesn't go against him when thinking about my picks. But there's many great performances, and I keep urging all the players and talking to them and saying, everyone's playing well. They want to be on that team. So just keep fighting, keep pushing forward, and keep making it impossible for me not to pick you.
Now, Luke, I'm a betting man. I will admit that. I don't know if you've looked at the odds for the Ryder Cup, but the European team underdogs in this year's edition, just under 2-1. Are they worth a bet? They haven't lost in Europe since 1993. They got to be worth a bet at around 2-1 to win the Ryder Cup this year.
Well, many times we're underdogs, and we don't mind being underdogs. I think on paper that is usually the case, but we always come together as a team. We always figure a way to put our strengths to their best use, and I have certainly a lot of faith in my team. And of course, I'm going to go in there with the full knowledge that I have their backing, and I feel like they can do it and they can pull it off. So it was obviously very disappointing 2 years ago in Whistling Straits. It was a tough loss for us and a big loss. The players just didn't play to their potential. There was some other reasons that went into that, but I hopefully the work that I'm doing and all the people behind the scenes that will give our guys the best opportunity for success.
Well, thank you so much, Luke, for your time. I really appreciate it. Everyone watching this interview, go ahead and check out Luke over on airways.com, air, W-A-Y-Z, for all of his work, lessons, videos, all that great stuff. Thank you so much, Luke, and best of luck at the Ryder Cup.
All right. Thanks, Ian.